This is Unit 6, Coaching for Performance and Fitness, A3, Best Practice for Coaching. The first best practice is safeguarding and DBS. Safeguarding is making sure that all of the performers are safe when playing sport. If there are any issues that are surrounding the safeguarding of a child in sport, whether they're maybe being abused, a coach needs to be able to spot this and report this to a welfare officer that will then deal with it externally. For example, the LTA, which is the Lawn Tennis Association, have safeguarding procedures in place that coaches should follow, just in case there are any worries about a child that could have a safeguarding issue at home, and then how to deal with that. And then also, coaches should have gone through a DBS, which is defined as disclosure and bearing services, which is a background check on how they should be working, whether they should be working with children, and it gets updated every few years to make sure that they are safe and that all the children and performers are safe. All of the coaches have a duty of care, which is a legal observation to care for participants and be the parental guardian and be the parental role while the parents aren't there. And this is very important for an effective coach to have. Moving on, the next best practice that an effective coach should have is making sure that there are equal opportunities among all of the participants. This is making sure that they allow for boys and girls. There's no prejudice, no stereotyping, making sure there's no racism, and making sure that each performer has the opportunity to play the sport and become better, no matter what. So they all have equal opportunities to do that. And an effective coach should make sure that there are equal opportunities for all participants. If they do give out equal opportunities, it can mean that it can invite more people into the sport, which is much better. And if they don't have this, it can mean that less people play the sport and people might not enjoy the sessions because there's not as many people in them, or there aren't girls or there aren't boys, and yeah. Moving on, the next best practice is CPD, which is continuing professional development. This means getting more coaching qualifications and expanding then an effective coach's knowledge of coaching, which can then progress their career. For example, in the LTA, there are 5 levels of coaches. Level 5 means that you are qualified to coach a professional, which could progress your career so that you could then be a better coach and also be able to coach at a higher standard. And it means you do have to go through lots of courses. The only problems with this is that it does take a lot of time. You do have to pay for your own education to get better, which could be hard for some coaches to get their CPD. But the positive effects are that you can coach at higher standards. And if you don't have this, it may mean that you can't progress your career as you would want to as a coach. The next best practice is risk assessment of environment and activity. For every sort of session or trip or away day, there is a risk assessment which basically compiles all of the potential risks and hazard involved in the environments or the activities, rates them all out of 10, and then the coach should make the decision on whether they should go forward with the session or the away day, or they should decide to call it off. Also, they may have to think of ways to maybe stop some risks if they're way more than others so that they can continue. And also, they then need to review this risk assessment if they continue doing an away day to the same place, or they continue doing it the same session and it results in maybe more injuries, they might have to think of ways to cut down on those injuries. Maybe it's through the facility isn't great and the surface may cause people to roll over on their ankles. In that instance, they should maybe move to a different facility to make sure that the sessions can still go ahead, but in a safe way for all the participants. Positives of doing this risk assessment is that it makes it a lot safer for both the coach and all the participants, um, which is obviously much better. And if it isn't done and there are injuries, there could be legal action that takes place. If they haven't done a risk assessment properly, um, then it could be bad for that coach's career. Next is emergency procedures. There are emergency procedures for all incidents, whether that's medical or reporting reporting a safeguarding. There are all emergency procedures in place that coaches should know and follow. This could be first aid, make sure they know the first aid, what to do at all times if there's an injury. They should make sure they're familiar with common injuries in the sport that they're playing and how to deal with them, whether that's if you're a netball and a broken finger, how to deal with that and get them the proper medical aid that they need. The main positive with knowing the emergency procedures is that it does make it a lot safer and reduces the risks if someone gets injured of their injury getting worse because they don't get the right medical aid. Um, and the negatives of not doing that, of not knowing the emergency procedures, is that people won't get the help that they need, or if they don't report a safeguarding emergency, then it could be bad for not only that person but also for the coach. Therefore, it's really important that coaches practice this and know the emergency procedures. And then lastly is the administration for coaching. This is making sure that the coach has all the relevant PARQ documents as shown on the screen so that they know if any participants have underlying health issues, whether they see if they can't take part or whether they can take part. And it's very important that coaches say if they get some new participants to know if maybe they have asthma or if they have heart problems and whether they can take part or maybe they can only take part in some sessions and not others, or whether they can't take part at all. And the main importance of a coach having these PARQ documents is that it's much safer for everyone, especially for that participant if they do have the underlying health issues and they do take part and then they have an asthma attack or a heart attack. It can help keep them safe if they don't participate, and negatives if a coach do it can lead to major risks for that participant, which is not very good at all. And then here is the bibliography for A3.